So, good morning. Today we'll be discussing about the introduction to forensic chemistry and the legal aspects when it comes to forensic chemistry. So, we will not be discussing yet toxicology since after na siya. Pakatapos na natin makapag-discuss ng chemistry, saka tayo pupunta sa toxicology, okay? So, for your attendance today, I want you to screenshot this video and comment down kung anong oras mo siya pinapanood mo. So, heads up, tatlong screenshot po ang gagawin niyo. Kaya, please tapusin po ang video recording na ito. So, before I start, I just want to ask you a question first. So, imagine if a crime has occurred and there is no CCTV footage, no cameras, no eyewitness, and no confession. Is the administration of justice feasible? So when we say feasible, posible ba ang administration of justice? So I do hope may nabubuong kasagutan sa isip mo. So yes, it is feasible. Through what? Through this subject. Through forensic chemistry. So we can see the truth through this subject. And malalaman natin yan mamaya. So I do hope na aware kayo kung ano to. So, this is the table of specification or the TOS. So, it will serve na parang coverage nyo sa magiging board exam nyo. Kaya, dapat, as early as now, prepared na kayo kung ano ba ang TOS. Para, pag mas mahaba kasi ang preparation nyo, syempre, mas magiging confident kayo pag mag-take na kayo. So, as you can see here, out of 100 items, 8 items ang manggagaling sa forensic chemistry and toxicology. And sa 8 items na yun, 5 items ay applying. So, it means situational ang magiging katanungan sa inyo. Kaya, medyo since situational, hindi na yan more on terms and memorization lang. Kaya, kailangan nyo ng reading comprehension. Kaya, sana, as early as now, binibuild nyo na ang reading comprehension nyo and analysis mo sa question. Sorry. So, I do hope na binasa nyo yan. And pwede nyo naman siya ma-search online para aware kayo kung ano ba yung TOS. Para guided kayo pag mag-e-exam na kayo. Kasi dyan lang din naman iikot yung tanong. Kaya nga sinabi ko, coverage, diba? So, yan. This is an example of one board question. Excuse me. So, the word forensic means ano ba ang meaning ng forensic daw? So, A, Latin, B, forum, C, public discussion, or D, legal. So, I do hope may sagot kayo sa utak niyo habang binabasa niyo yan. So, ano ba ang tamang sagot? Is it Latin? Is it forum? Is it public discussion? Or is it legal? Di ba sinabi ko na yan sa inyo? Na kapag forensic, matic, legal matters. So, the correct answer is what? The correct answer is letter D, legal. Kasi ang tinatanong kung ano daw yung kahulugan ng forensic. Hindi naman sinabi na letter A kung saan ang galing yung word forensic. Kasi kapag sinabi natin kung saan ba nag-originate ang word na forensic, of course, nanggaling ito sa word na forensics. Meaning, forum or before forum or public discussion. So, a little history lang. Nung time kasi daw ng Romans, whenever may criminal charge ang isang akusado, they are given the chance na to speak up for themselves. So, they are given para ma-acquit daw siya, ganun, para ma-acquit yung akusado na yun. Ang kailangan niya is bigay siya ng maipresent niya yung kaso niya. Makapagbigay siya ng magandang argumento na kung bakit hindi dapat siya yung tinuturo na suspect. Kaya doon ang galing yung word na forensis or forensic sa public discussion. So, yung maa-acquit, ibig sabihin, siya yung may magandang forensic skill or siya yung magaling mag-deliver ng argument. And doon, 'di ba, kapag sinasabi kasi natin na legal ang isang bagay, ibig sabihin nun valid. Valid yung sinasabi mo. So, kapag magaling ka daw, makipag-argument, makipag-debate, magaling mong na i-deliver yung argumento mo, ibig sabihin, may forensic skill ka. And doon ang galing yung word na forensic, which means legal evidence or legal matters. Sana naiintindihan. So, what is forensic science? Di ba sabi ko pag forensic, legal matters. So, kapag sinabi natin forensic science, ito daw yung paggamit ng science for the purposes of the law. So, purposes of the law, legal matters. So, ginagamit mo yung science for legal matters. So, what about forensic chemistry ay forensic science? And so, sinabing, pag forensic science daw, it is the application of broad spectrum of sciences and technologies to investigate and establish facts of interest in relation with the administration of justice. So, administration of justice, ginagamit mo yung broad range or malawak na range ng science and technology in order to establish facts para sa better administration of justice. So, you use it for the purposes of the law. So, ano ba yung chemistry naman? So, chemistry, it is the study of composition of matter, the stuffs that are made of, and the changes that matter undergoes. So, dito naman, ang chemistry, ito daw yung branch of natural science that deals with chemical properties or yung matter. So, ano ba yung key concept natin sa forensic science? So, kung maaalala nyo dati, di ba pina-explain ko sa inyo kung ano yung meaning ng every contact leaves a trace by Edmund Locard. So, may connection kasi yun sa forensic science. So, yun yung tinatawag na Locard's exchange principle. So, sabi ko nga, ang gusto lang naman i-deliver o i-convey na message ng principle na yan is that there is no perfect crime. So, lagi may naiiwan na traces of evidence ang suspect na minsan hindi visible sa mata natin. Kaya, there is a need for forensic scientists, investigators, in order to reveal those evidence na invisible sa mata natin. So, pag pinag-combine na natin ang forensic plus forensic chemistry. So, meaning nun, forensic chemistry. So, ano nga ba ang forensic chemistry? So, it is a specialized subfield of forensic science which deals with the application of chemical principles in the solution of problems that arise in connection with the administration of justice. So, yun. Diba? Mabasa nyo, application of chemical principles. So, it directly defines kung ano nga ba yung chemistry. And doon sa administration of justice, yun na yung forensic. So, kapag pinaghalo mo, kapag gumagamit ka ng application ng chemical principles sa batas, sa administration of justice, sa legal matters, matik, forensic chemistry. So, ano nga ba ang importance ng pag-aaral natin ng forensic chemistry? So, sabi dito, like the other forensic sciences, forensic chemistry plays a very important part in the speedy investigation and in the administration of justice. It is well settled that this science has an advantage over extracted confessions, eyewitness, and other circumstantial evidence. Thus, it is regarded as the highest form of uncontestable and conclusive piece of evidence with the utmost legal significance. So the role of forensic chemistry in criminal investigation is vast and ranges from techniques used to collect and preserve evidence to complex chemical procedures used to identify elements and compounds. Identification of procedures are highly reliable and are frequently based on the chemical and the physical properties of the substance, supported by data or obtained from analytical analysis. So, ano ba yung gustong sabihin nito? So, pag sinabi natin for the speedy investigation, ang gusto lang naman sabihin niya na it prevents delay sa pagbibigay ng justice. Why? Kasi imagine kung magre-rely ka lang sa guesswork, it will cost you too much time and hindi mo pa sure kung yung magiging resulta is reliable. Unlike kung gagamit ka ng forensic chemistry, of course magiging reliable ang findings mo kasi you use science and when we say science, it is infallible. Kapag sinabi natin infallible, 100% sure ka na less error ang makukuha mong findings or conclusion. So, mas mapapabilis mo yung investigation. Kaysa naman kung mag-rely ka nga sa guesswork. So, yun yung gustong sabihin ng importance ng forensic chemistry. So, pag sinabi naman natin for the administration of justice, ang gustong sabihin dito is that it prevents wrongful convictions. So, maiiwasan natin na maakusahan yung mga inosente. And mas mananarrow down natin with the use of forensic chemistry, mas mananarrow down natin kung sino ba talaga yung suspect. Kaya nga, sabi dito, yan, it is well settled that this science has advantage over, yun nga, sinasabi ko, you can still, feasible pa rin ang administration of justice kahit wala yung confession na yan, eyewitness, kasi ang forensic chemistry or ang science na yan, it is the highest form of uncontestable and conclusive piece of evidence. So kapag sinabi natin uncontestable or conclusive, ibig sabihin unquestionable na yan. Yun yung sinasabi ko na infallible. So it cannot err. So less from error. So yun yung importante sa pag-aaral natin ng forensic science. Kasi nga, di ba, ang forensic science for the purposes of law. So, laging natin na kailangan, lagi dapat na scientifically sound at unbiased ang proof na or ang ebidensya na ilalatag natin. So, yun yung importante sa pag-aaral natin ng forensic chemistry. So next, what is the goal of forensic chemistry? So ang goal lang naman ng forensic chemistry is to determine the provenance of a sample and link it to a person, place, or thing. So kapag sinabi nating provenance, yun yung history of ownership. So through that, malalaman natin para matrace natin kung sino ba talaga yung culprit. Kasi nga, kapag nag-aral tayo ng forensic chemistry, related na siya sa collection of evidence, preservation. So with that, kapag nalaman mo kung saan nanggaling, di mas madali mong malilink yung bagay na yun, may it be sa person, sa place, or sa thing. So, this is the scope of forensic chemistry. So, sabi ko diba sa inyo, malawak ang forensic chemistry. So, yan yung mga matatouch natin na topics. So, about blood, semen, hair and textile, explosive, yung glass evidence, yung glass fractures, fire debris, soil and geologic microtraces, question documents, latent finger marks, and the like. So, doon naman tayo sa practice of forensic chemistry. So, there are 4 stages, namely the collection or reception of the specimen, the actual examination, the communication of the results of the examination, and the court appearance. So, doon na muna tayo sa collection of the specimen. So, natawag din itong field investigation. So, pumupunta mismo yung forensic chemist doon sa field. So, dito, the specimen collection plays an important role in getting timely and accurate results of the investigation required for diagnosis. The proper collection, preservation, and transportation of specimens are essential in the investigation of a crime. Hence, whenever possible, the chemist should personally collect all the specimen necessary for the examination. So, nagsisimula ang practice ng forensic chemistry sa collection. Of course, magsisimula yan sa collection, preservation, and transportation of specimen. Kasi ano naman yung i-examine mo kung wala kang na-collect, di ba, na specimen. Kasi yung specimen na yun, or yung specimen na yun, yun yung required. Yan nga, required for diagnosis. So, ang gustong sabihin dito, na dapat daw, in the collection of the specimen, importante na yung chemist daw ang personal na magko-collect ng specimen. Bakit? Kasi imagine kung untrained person ang pinakollect mo ng evidence. So it will result to what? It will result to high risk of making mistakes. And diba sabi ko sa inyo na yung specimen na yan, yun yung magiging evidence, tama? And imagine kung yung evidence na na-collect ay mali yung proseso, o mali yung hindi niya na-follow yung chain of custody. So what will happen? So it will be prone to contamination, loss or damage ng specimen, ano pa, na eventually magiging result to misinterpreted na result. So sa tingin nyo, doon sa mga bagay na yun, kapag nangyari yun sa isang evidence, magiging admissible pa ba yun sa court? Diba hindi? Kaya dapat sa collection of the specimen pa lang, dapat naka-follow na natin yung chain of custody. Kasi ang gusto lang naman ipahatid ng chain of custody is that kasi with the use of chain of custody, kapag na-follow natin ang chain of custody, ibig sabihin, yung integrity ng evidence natin ay credible. Kaya magiging admissible yun sa court. So yan yung meaning ng chain of custody. So sabi dyan, the chain of custody refers to a written record of all the individuals who maintained unbroken control over certain items of evidence collected from a crime scene. This establishes the proof that the items collected at the crime scene are the name items being presented in the court of law, hence validating their origin. The so-called chain of custody aims to establish several things: the date and time at which the evidence was handled, those who had contact with the evidence, what changes, if any, were made in the evidence, and the circumstances under which the evidence was handled. So imagine kung hindi nyo na-follow yung chain of custody na yun. Diba? Magiging questionable na yung integridad ng evidence na nilalatag mo. Kaya, kapag questionable yan sa korte, it is more likely na i-dismiss nila, na hindi nila tanggapin kasi inadmissible yan eh. Ikaw ba naman? Yan ang chain of custody kasi na yan. Parang procedure yan. So, kaya nga chain, dapat sunod-sunod. So, kapag yung procedure na yan, yung step by step na yan, hindi mo nasunod. Di ba mapuputol yung chain? Hindi na yan dugtong. So, kung hindi na yan dugtong, hindi mo na yan matatawag na chain. Unbroken chain na yun. Di ba? Kaya, isipin nyo, kung dun sa procedure na yun, kunyari, may nakaligtaan ka na procedure, tapos hindi mo sinabi, o edi magiging questionable ka dun. And remember, kapag naglalahad ka ng evidence, hindi ka naman kilala sa korte. Kaya, nagre-rely lang sila doon sa dala mong evidence. Kahit masabihin na mabuting tao ka, tapos pero yung chain of custody mo, hindi mo naman nasunod, wala namang silbi yan. Kaya sabihin pa natin na nagsasabi ka ng totoo, hindi mo naman na-follow yung proper procedures. Babasura pa rin yan ng korte. Kasi, ang korte parang may trust issues yan eh. O, kapag hindi mo yan na-follow, parang may tinatago ka sa kanila. Parang nagsisinungaling ka. Kaya hindi nila yan i-a-admit sa court. So, I do hope na naiintindihan nyo. So, these are the factors to be considered when collecting a specimen for examination. So, we must consider this. So, for example, the sufficiency of samples, standard of comparison, the maintenance of individuality, and the labeling and sealing. So, first, the sufficiency of sample. So, sabi dyan, the investigator should collect sufficient amount of specimen for examination. This will make the chemist confident that in case of doubtful result, he or she can still have enough samples to repeat or to proceed to the succeeding examination. So, ang gusto lang naman sabihin dito is that dapat may enough na number ka ng sample para if in case na yung result is doubtful, meron ka pa rin enough na sample na pwedeng pang back up para hindi mo na need na mag-repeat pa, na ulitin pa yung pagkuha ng sample. Kasi, di ba hassle naman yun kung uulitin mo pa. And madi-delay yung findings. So, yun yung gustong iwasan. Kaya, we must consider sufficiency of samples. So, the second one is standard for comparison. So, when the evidence is in question is located or added with the foreign substance, a sample of such foreign substance must be submitted for analysis. So, kung nakikita nyo, yung picture na yan, yung puti, yung standard and suspicion. So, yan yung, ang gusto lang naman sabihin dito na dapat lagi kang merong standard specimen yan. Standard specimen. Kasi, yung standard specimen na yun yung magiging basis mo for comparison doon sa question specimen para ma-weigh mo kung ano ba yung foreign substance na nahalo, na idagdag. Para aware ka kung ano yun. Katulad nito, yan. Ito, yan yung standard specimen. Ito naman yung suspicious or yung tinatawag natin na question signature. So as you can see, kung wala itong standard signature na to, masasabi mo ba na may something dyan sa pirma na yan, dyan sa suspicious na yan, na signature? Di ba hindi? So, need mo na mag-procure ng standard specimen. So, itong ma-encounter nyo naman yan, yung signature na yan. Ang pinapakita dyan is that there is a sign of forgery. Kasi kung makikita nyo, kung ikukumpara niyo yung dalawa na yan, yung signature na yan, makikita nyo, nandun sa suspicious, iba ang pen pressure. Yung madiin baga. So, sinasabi doon na yun yung isang sign of forgery. And makikita nyo dito sa sa end stroke na madiin. Kasi usually kapag genuine daw ang signature, yan, nakita nyo yung parang diminishing effect. Kasi relax ka lang magpirma. Unlike kung ginagaya mo lang naman yung pirma, madiin talaga yan kasi ginagaya mo yung forma ng pirma eh. Kaya makikita mo, wala kang makikita na diminishing effect o yung sign na parang relax lang yung pagpipirma mo. Kasi most of the time, kapag nanggagaya ka lang naman ng pirma, so nang-addict ka baga na bad, hindi magaya yung pirma na gusto mong gayahin. So yun, parang wala yung blunt yung tawag dyan sa parang end stop na nagpapakita ng diminishing effect. So the other factor naman to be considered is the maintenance of individuality. So each piece of evidence must be collected and preserved as a separate sample. There must be no mixing or intermingling of specimen collected from different locations as well as those standard specimen. So, from the word itself, maintenance of individuality. Yung evidence, kaya diba nakita niyo may tatlong evidence, container or evidence bag, yung paper bag. Kasi, dapat, nami-maintain natin yung individuality. Hindi mo siya pwedeng ihalo. Kasi ano ba ang magiging resulta kapag hinalo mo ang halo-halo mo ang kunyari pigsalalbog mo kang kuan ang kunyari pagkain sinaralbog mo di ba gasagmaw. So parang ganoon lang din sa evidence, magiging contaminated yung evidence which result to inadmissibility niya. Kaya dapat kapag magko-collect tayo ng evidence, we should maintain their individuality. Bawal mo siyang ihalo. Okay? So the last one is labeling and sealing. So it is well settled rule that evidence will have no value in court in spite of good report if the specimen cannot be identified by reason of improper labeling. So, sa collection ng evidence, importante ang proper identification. Dapat properly labeled and sealed siya. Kasi, kunyari, sa exam, wala kang nilagay na pangalan, o kahit perfect ka doon, pero since walang pangalan, wala, hindi naman mare-record yung exam mo. Kasi kanino ba yun? Sa kalabaw. Diba? Ganun yun. So, yun ang importante ng pag-label ng proper identification. So, I do hope na nag-gets mo yung point. So, the next stage is the actual examination of the specimen. Ito naman yung tinatawag natin na technical examination. So the first step is to scrutinize the specimen carefully and write down in the laboratory logbook or record book a complete description of the external appearance, including the manner in which it is secured and the particulars of sealing. So dito, ang pinaka-importante daw kapag nasa actual examination ka na is that you observe carefully kung ano yung specimen na yun and write down yung lahat ng detalye sa observation, sa mga naging observation mo. Dapat specific yung details na isusulat mo. And yun, kaya nga, complete description. And dun din sa, dapat detalyado ka, dapat, ang gusto nang sabihin dito, dapat meticuloso ka. Dapat detalyado ka pag ilalagay mo na yung mga details ng mga naging observation mo nung nagkakontak ka na ng actual examination. The second step, to measure and to weigh the object. All measurements and weights should be entered in the logbook or record book. So yan. Lahat ng baseline data, lahat ng data na nag-gathered mo, including the measurements, the weights, kailangan mo daw yun i-input sa logbook or sa record book mo para meron kang record. And at the same time, alam mo yung precise data dun sa mga specimen na nakuha mo. And the last is, the third step, the laboratory examination. Yun na yung scientific examination, which consists of chemical, physical, and confirmatory tests. So, dyan na yung mga scientific exams, scientific testings, gano'n. So, the third stage is the communication of the results of the examination. So, the results of the examination conducted should be communicated with the respecting party in the form of a written report, which must include an enumeration of facts on the specimen received for examination, with detailed description of the packaging, sealing, labeling, date of receipt, and whom it was received for the purpose of examination, and conclusion. So, dito lang naman, ang gustong sabihin sa communication of the results of the examination is that you make a formal written report. And yung formal written report na yun yung i-communicate mo sa requesting party. Sino ba yung requesting party? It could be the investigator, the prosecutors, or the court per se. So, yun. Doon dapat daw nakalagay doon yung detailed description ng packaging, sealing, labeling, date of receipt, Tapos kung sino man yung naka-receive for the purpose of examination and the finding of conclusion. So, the last stage is the court appearance, o ito yung tinatawag natin legal proceeding. So, the report of the forensic chemist is usually supplemented by testimonial evidence in a later date if the case is brought to court or the fiscal's office. Since the testimonial evidence may be given weeks, months, or even years after the examination, and the written report have been made, it is not only permissible but indispensable that the chemist should refresh his memory by referring to his laboratory record book before presenting himself in court. Ito naman ang gustong sabihin na sa legal proceeding or sa appearance, sino bang nag-appear sa court? Of course, yung forensic chemist kasi siya rin nagsuserve na expert witness. Tama ba? Tama. So, hindi lang daw enough na yung written report lang yung i-present mo sa court. So, it must be supplemented by your testimonial evidence or your testimony as the forensic expert or the expert witness. Kasi, itong testimonial evidence, doon mo ma-explain kung ano ba yung ando nakasulat sa written report mo. Para ma-clarify mo din kung ano yung nakasulat dun sa written report mo. Kasi minsan, di ba may ginagamit sa kada field na jargons? And yung jargons na yun, syempre, minsan ikaw lang din naman yung forensic chemist lang din naman ang nakakaintindi nun. Kaya, need niya pa din yun i-explain sa court para maintindihan, maunawaan ng court kung ano ba yung mga pinagsusulat niya dun sa written report na yun. And also, para ma-defend niya na din sa sa cross-examination. Kasi dun sa cross-examination, di ba, dun mo ma-test kung talaga bang tunay yung pinagsasasabi mo. So, yun. Kailangan sa court appearance, supplemented pa din na testimonial evidence. And, ayun pala, gusto ko lang din sabihin yung na pwede naman sila gumamit, mag-refer sa laboratory record nila. Kaya nga, importante diba na may record sila. Kasi, ilan ba ang gig ng utak nila? Hindi naman siguro, mai-store yun lahat ng information sa utak nila. Siyempre, may hangganan din ang memory natin. Kaya, with the use of that record book, mare-refresh yung memory ng forensic chemist natin. Kaya, importante po. Kaya, pinapayagan na mag-refer siya sa notes niya or sa record book. So, here are the 6. Sorry, nalamig ko. Aircon kasi. Lamigan ako yun. Sorry. So, here are the 6 golden rules in the practice of forensic chemistry. So, number 1 is to go slowly. So, good work cannot be hurried. Therefore, take all the time necessary to make the case complete no matter how urgent it may appear. So, dito yung parang principle baga na, dito mo pasok yung principle na slowly but surely. Kasi, importante yung evidence na yan. Hindi mo siya pwedeng, So, madali hindi siya pwedeng, or kahit sabihin pa natin na it's in a hurry or urgent, yun, hindi mo pwedeng yung output mo is sugat kinayusan manok baga. So yung makahalata mo na minadali lang, bawal yun. Kasi, very technical ang evidence, and konting mali mo lang dyan, pwede kang makapag-convict ng isang tao, ng inosenteng tao. So, ganun yung pwede maging consequence kapag mali, hindi ka sumunod sa proseso. Kaya, dapat dahan-dahan lang. Kahit urgent man siya, dahan-dahan lang. Basta sigurado ka sa output mo. So number 2, be thorough. So make careful and minute examination of everything and do not be satisfied with the quantitative analysis if a qualitative one is possible. Don't be satisfied with a qualitative analysis if a quantitative one is possible. Be correct. It always pays to do much rather than too little, and it is difficult to foresee what will or will not be required. So, ang gusto lang naman sabihin dito is that pag gumagawa tayo ng isang bagay, dapat meticuloso tayo sa kada details. Okay? Dapat, bukod sa meticuloso, dapat careful din tayo. Bakit? Kasi dapat detail-oriented tayo. Kasi kada detalye ng evidence, importante. Bawal kang may mamiss kahit isa dyan. Diba? Katulad nung sa chain of custody, diba? Bawal ka may mamiss kahit isang proseso. Kasi kapag may na-miss ka, hindi na yun chain. At mas lalong hindi na yun admissible sa court. So number 3, take notes. Keep a full, neat, and clean record of everything seen and done. So yeah, take notes. Kailangan lagi kang may record. And hindi lang basta-basta record Dapat malinis yung naiintindihan kasi dun ka it will serve as your reference. Okay? Magiging basis mo yun in future purposes na kunyari kapag pinatawag ka sa court, pag pinatawag ka as expert witness, magagamit mo yun to refresh your memory. Kaya, it's important, it's very vital na we take notes kasi genius ba kayo? Kasi, yun nga, ang capacity ng utak natin ay may limit. So, hindi lahat ng information kaya mong i-store sa utak mo. Kaya, kailangan mo ng parang second brain. So, yung second brain na yun yung notes mo. So, number 4, consult others. Many cases will lead the expert into path with which he is not familiar, and when this happens, he should consult those who know better. So, dito, ang gustong sabihin na kahit expert ka na, kahit alam mo pa yung isang field or subject matter na yan, there will come a time na may experience ka pa rin na unfamiliarity, uncertainty sa isang bagay na kasi hindi sa sobrang vast ng information, hindi mo naman alam yan lahat. Kaya, di ba may sinasabi tayong no man is an island. So, with that, kailangan kapag in doubt na tayo sa information na meron tayo, we should consult other experts. Huwag natin pagaganahin yung pride natin na dapat alam ko to lahat. Mali yun. So, matuto tayong magtanong, mag-seek ng tulong sa iba. So, we should consult others. So, number 5, use imagination. An expert with a wide and uncontrollable imagination is considered as the most dangerous creature. Though his being imaginative is sometimes useful, an expert witness does not have to be solely imaginative, but he has to be skilled in the forensic science. He must bear witness within the limits of science. So, ang gusto nito sa use imagination is that dapat malawak yung knowledge mo. Pero yung knowledge niya dapat within the limits of science. Kasi kapag, di ba, malawak ang knowledge mo, malawak ang perspective mo sa isang bagay, then you can see things in different angles. So, yun yung gustong sabihin na you use your imagination. Pero ang limit is that within dapat sa field pa din ng forensic science. So, number 6, the last one, avoid complicated theories. The simplest explanation is fundamentally the right one. Interpretation results is often the most difficult part of the expert's task. That is why a wide knowledge and the scientific experience are essential to obtain the right forensic examination result. So dito, huwag mo nang pahirapan ng sarili mo. Huwag mo nang gawing komplikado pa. Doon lang tayo lagi sa simpleng explanation. Kasi yung simple na yun yung mas maiintindihan eh. Hindi lang ng expert witness, maiintindihan din yun ng mga ordinary witness. And with that, kaya nga sinasabi na fundamentally the right one kasi naiintindihan ng lahat. Unlike kung gamitan mo ng complicated, ng complex, di ikaw lang naman nakakaintindi nun. Is it? And mako-consider mo ba na tama yun? Diba hindi naman? Kasi kapag sinabi natin na tama, hindi lang yun tama para sa'yo. Tama din yun sa perspective ng ibang tao. Yun yung gustong sabihin na avoid complicated theories. So, yeah. So, failure to consider the golden rules will contribute to the destruction of evidence or specimen. So, the other reasons of forensic disaster are, number 1, the improper packing of specimen. Mali yung paglagay mo ng specimen. Kunyari, nakakuha ka ng anong perfect example ko? Specimen. So, ito sa improper packing of specimen, for example, yung pigseralbog mo, so gabos na biological samples. O ano mangyayari doon? Di makakontaminate. Kunyari, pinaghalo mo yung semen sa blood sample. O di contaminated na, magamit mo pa ba yun na evidence? Diba? Hindi. So, okay. It will result to forensic disaster. So, yun, failure of identification of specimen. So, alam niyo na yan. Hindi mo nilagyan ng proper label. Improper precaution in transmitting the specimen. Hindi ka naging maingat sa pagtatransmit ng specimen. Anong pwede mangyari? It's either pwede ma-contaminate o pwede ma-damage. It will result to forensic disaster. And the last one is the lack of precaution to prevent tampering of the specimen. Pag sinabi natin tampering, what do you call this? Na-altered, na-adulterated yung isang specimen. O kapag ganun, kapag altered na, syempre, hindi na din yan admissible as evidence. So, ano ba yung role ng forensic chemist sa scientific investigation? So, tandaan nyo, na kapag sinabi natin forensic chemist, they also known as what? As man of science. Tandaan nyo yan kasi lumabas yun sa board exam namin na kung ano daw ba ang forensic chemist sa loob ng isang company. He or she is a man of science. So, he or she performs laboratory examination ng physical evidence submitted to the crime laboratory in order to expedite, mapabilis, yung investigation of a crime by the investigating party. He or she has the following responsibilities. Ito yung responsibilidad daw ng isang forensic chemist. So, number 1, to conduct qualitative and quantitative, di ba mali spelling? Quantitative determination of abused drugs as well as volatile substances. Ano ba yung ginatawag natin na qualitative or quantitative determination? Kapag sinabi natin qualitative, quality, sinasagot yun yung what substance. So, for example, anong substance daw yung nahanap mo doon sa sa pagkain. So, doon daw sa pagkain may makikita kang methamphetamine, ganun. Kapag sinabi naman na quantitative determination of abused drugs o how much substance, kunyari, o ilang alcohol daw yung natagpuan sa ilang alcohol content yung natagpuan sa blood nung suspect. Pag sinabi naman natin na volatile substance, para hindi ko siya makalimutan dati na nag-review ako, volatile. Mga volatile, bola. May hangin. So, pag volatile substance, yun yung nag-evaporate na substance. So, number 2, it conducts chemical examination of explosive or explosive ingredients. Alam na yan. Conducts examination of paraffin cast and firearms. So, para saan ba yung paraffin cast? So, it determines yung gun residue sa kamay ng isang tao. Yun yung, through the use of what? Paraffin wax. Ano pa ba? They conduct gunpowder examination of clothing, conducts chemical toxicological examinations of human internal organs, gastric contents, blood, water, food sample, and other substances. Conducts examination of fake products, blood alcohol determination, urine samples and other body fluids for the presence of abused drugs, conducts researches related to cases being examined. They testify and gives expert opinion in court. Nagbibigay din ng lecture. And also responds to queries of all investigating beings. So, lahat ng yun yung responsibilidad o role ng forensic chemist sa pag-aaral ng forensic chemistry and toxicology. So, I do hope na naiintindihan niyo. Since lahat ng yun is very self-explanatory lang naman. So, I do hope na nakikinig pa din kayo. So, for your attendance, pangalawang attendance, comment the time, kung anong oras mo napapanood to ngayon. Comment down. And screenshot natin. So, yun na yung pangalawang screenshot. Dapat tatlo ang screenshot para may attendance kayo sa araw na to. The next one is the development of crime laboratory in the Philippines. So, bakit kasama pa to? Wala naman yan sa TOS. So, kailangan pa din natin pag-aralan yung mga ganyan kasi dyan yung malalaman kung paano nag-evolve yung forensic science. Pero hindi naman natin siya masyado didig deeper. So, gusto ko lang na aware kayo kung paano ba nag-develop itong mga scientific laboratory na to sa Philippines. So, noong February 14, 1829 daw, massacre occurred in Chicago. Then a group of public-minded individuals were responsible for the establishment of scientific Crime Laboratory. So, doon nagsimula ang lahat noong February 14. Wow. Ano pala, araw ng mga puso. Saka man may nangyaring massacre. Kaya doon na-establish yung Scientific Crime Laboratory. And after that, noong March 31 daw, 1876, the creation of medical titulares by virtue of Royal Decree number 188 of Spain. So, kapag sinabi natin medical titulares, ito na yung mga official medical officers. Yan yung mga physicians. Diyan daw nagsimula creation nila. So, noong December 15 naman daw, Governor General Joaquin Havelyar created and committed to study the mineral waters of the zone and appointed Anacleto de los Angeles. So, si Gobernador General Havelyar pala, yung nag-appoint kay Anacleto de los Angeles. So, ito, siya si Anacleto de los Angeles. So, noong, September 13, 1887, the establishment of Laboratorio Municipal de Manila that makes analysis not only of food, water, and others from the standpoint of public health and legal medicine, but also of a specimen for clinical purposes. So, nagkaroon daw ng Laboratorio Municipal de Manila na hindi lang nag-a-analyze ng food, water, and the like, kundi nag-a-analyze daw ng specimen din for clinical purposes, for medical purposes. Gano'n. Tapos, noong 1894, doon naman nabuo yung laboratorio medical legal. In 1895, yan. Ito si Antonio Luna. Siya daw yung nag-establish daw siya ng clinical laboratory, but unfortunately, all prospects of the advancement of the scientific laboratories were paralyzed as a result of the revolution, since may nangyari bagang revolution ng 1896. So, lahat ng mga parang potential na advancement sa scientific laboratories na parang bumuko kasabay ng revolution. And for your information, ito si Antonio Luna, and he is considered a scientist. As noong 1899 naman daw, the first scientific laboratory was established in a small building on the banks of Pasig River with Lieutenant R.P. Strong of the U.S. Army. So, ito, yan yung Pasig River. So, andyan lang somewhere yung first scientific laboratory. So, in 1991, actual scientific work began under the initiative of Dean C. Worcester by virtue of Act Number 156 approved by the Civil Commission. So, July 1, 1901, the Bureau of Government Laboratories was created for the purposes of performing biological and chemical examinations as well as for the production of vaccines, etc. So, in March 11, 1915, the Department of Legal Medicine was created. Pursuant to resolution of the Board of Regents, the department took charge of the courses of legal medicines and its branches in College of Medicine. So, October 14, 1924, to the passage of Act Number 3043 by the Philippine Legislature, the same Department of Legal Medicine became a branch of the Department of Justice and at the same time an integral part of UP, the University of the Philippines. And on December 1, 1937, the Division of Investigation was created under the Commonwealth Act Number 181 with two. Diyan na nagsimula yung pagkakaroon ng dalawang medical legal officers, pati na rin ng chemist. So, on September 1945, the NBI, or the National Bureau of Investigation, was organized with the Division of Investigation as the nucleus. So, the chemical laboratory of the medical legal section was expanded to forensic forensic chemistry division. So ngayong present, meron na tayong dalawang crime laboratories. Number 1, yung sa PNP, yung crime laboratory or ngayon na tinatawag na natin na PNP Forensic Group. Oh, yan. Pinalitan na siya. Dati siyang tinatawag na PNP Crime Laboratory. Pero ngayon, PNP Forensic Group na siya. To the General Orders Number DPL 2032, pursuant to NAPOL Common Solution Number 2021-1275, dated September 30, 2021. Tapos, apart from that, bukod sa PNP Crime Laboratory or PNP Forensic Group, meron din tayo yung NBI na, to be specific, yung under the Forensic Chemistry Division. So, yun na yung mga nag-handle ng crime laboratories natin ngayon. So, please take note of that. Wait, kakat ko muna siya.